like this is going to be really good.
I hope so.
Yeah. So I just want to give everybody give a formal introduction. This is Desney Bowen, counselor or therapist. Which would you prefer?
Either one.
Either one, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was thinking about doing this, God just kind of really put her on my heart because I just really feel like she has a way to like really reach you. Conversations that we have, you really do provide that sense of safety. And I think that's something that I thought about with it. And I think this will be perfect, So again, everybody, I wanted to just introduce you to Desney and really let her take over and really tackle some of these things that we talked about today, especially in the backstage. Did you get a chance to see some of those things that we were talking about?
I did. I saw the list. I believe it's 15 different things. They look very interesting. When I jumped on, I was like, oh, this sounds like a wonderful discussion. I wanted to get some background to hear where you started. Because I got where you ended, but I wasn't sure where you started to get a good idea.
So where we started with what we call a thorn in our rose. And talking about, what were some of the challenges with this week? What were some of the highlights? It's crazy. I had an opportunity to talk to you last night, but between that time, I found out one of my close friends passed away.
Oh my!
And so it's like we were talking about emotions and everything like that, and it's just like, man, like these are things that we just talked about. So, I'm looking forward.
What does that feel like to hear that your friend passed away?
I'm gonna be honest, man. I had to break down because she just called me. She was a close friend from college. I'm thinking about her kids. I'm thinking about myself from an aspect of a parent. I think about some of the things we talked about, just trying to take care of yourself. Like that was some of the conversations that we were talking about. And it's just crazy. Like this was 3 days ago. She texted me just to check up. Hey, how you and the family doing?
Oh wow!
It was like, man, that quick. I kept saying I'm gonna text her back. So it felt more like. It just felt like in shock, at first. But I kind of remember what we talked about. We was like, nah, you got to really address it, So I had a moment, and I'm just like, man, it kind of feels unreal, And it's like, wow.
I can imagine someone that you talked to 3 days ago and now they're not here. Wow. Yeah. All righty. I'm so sorry, and I'm sure we'll talk about that some more, Bryson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Condolences to you and Lauren. Hello, everyone. As Bryson said, I am Desney Bowen. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor here in the state of Maryland. I have been talking all day, so if I stumble over my words or my voice is a little raspy and low, please pardon and forgive up front. Alrighty, before we started, now I prepared this PowerPoint slide, but we might go in a different direction, which is okay. So before we get started, I just want to get an idea of like who's on the line, who is here, what we're here for, and what you hope to get. The goal is mental health and emotions. I have a thriving practice here in Southern Maryland. I have plenty of, I do individual and group counseling. Individual is 18 out of high school and above to whatever age, as well as couples. I have men and women. And so this is my profession. This is what I love to do. And I'm also a retired naval officer as well. I am married to Kennedy Bowen, who is on the line. I have a son who is a pastor of Engage Community Church. I have a daughter that goes to Clemson University. She just came home today for the weekend for Father's Day, so that's wonderful. And then I have a 15-year-old, almost 16-year-old that is playing high school football for St. Mary's Rankin. So we have a fun-filled family. And then I see my brother-in-law on the line, Chris Bowen, so I'm happy about that, and my godson, Leon. So please tell me who you are. Anyone can go first. If you don't, I'm going to call on you.
Hey, Des. I'm glad to see you're going to provide us some excellent help. You definitely provided me some counseling and therapy on June the 3rd as I was nervous before my surgery. And you was right there. And I do appreciate you greatly for not just that, but for every day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You make it easy. Yes. All righty. So I'm gonna go. Adrian. Obviously, you're Adrian. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you tell me anything else about you, Adrian? You know what? So you're Adrian. Everyone knows that. What do you know about mental health? What do you know about emotion?
I have a long history with it, just off of my own experience with battling depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I think I know a lot more than the average person, just of how the connection.
Yeah.
But I think my weakness is always that voice inside my head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that code and how to rewire it for myself, because it feels like I can give the best advice to everyone else, but not take that same advice from myself.
Yes.
And you know, it's always that I would say it's that samurai mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you know, if I fail or if I don't do it this way, then, you know, I feel like I have to punish myself to feel like, okay, now I know what to do. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not the most healthy way to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally understand. I thank you and commend you for even saying that you battle with anxiety and depression. That is a sign of strength. And that's the first step to getting help and feeling better. Just saying that you have it or that you battle with that. Do you see a therapist?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, I do.
That's even better. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Yes. All righty. Anyone else want to go? I see you wanting to go. Kareem, is that you? I see you.
Hello, how you doing?
I am.
Yes. So, in terms, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, I was just saying, just introduce yourself, because I just wanted to get a feel who was on the line, and you can share with me what you know about mental health or emotions, what you think about it. You might not think anything about it, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot. I mean, I'm around it a lot. As just in my profession in law enforcement, you know, I run across a lot of mental health consumers. I do know a lot of it, you know, just the battle of the mind, of course, you know, which is where I believe spiritual warfare begins and really ends, is all in the mind.
Okay.
I'll say personally, when it comes to mental health, I'm not perfect, obviously, but I'm a little bit more mindful of that scheme of the enemy, you know, and how he tries to attack our thoughts and things of that nature. Of course, I mean, you know, every day is a battle. Every day we're fighting and contending to control our thoughts, you know, and the Bible talks about thinking on things that are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, you know, things that are praiseworthy, things of good report. You know, the word says, think on these things. And we might know the word, you know, but we still got to do it. And there lies the challenge. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's like, you know, I know the word, but being a doer of the word, especially in the heat of battle, you know, that's where where I find my struggle, you know, from time to time. And I mean, you can say it's all mental health. I mean, that's what I believe.
Okay. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yes. What emotion came up for you when Bryson was sharing that his friend passed away?
I mean, compassion. You know, that's what you know, just being moved with compassion over what he goes through. But also just, you know, I'm in awe of Bryson every day. You know, I believe I've been being able to kind of get a front row seat of seeing how he's been growing. So, you know, the emotion also came when he said that is really joy. You know, because I can see the characteristics of Christ in him. You know what I mean? And I can see how God is just moving in his life, and I marvel. And it really makes me, you know, I become emotional just to see how I can see how God's moving in another man of God's life. And it makes me emotional, makes me happy, you know, and, you know, I love Bryce, man, you know, because I know he would not have said that a couple years ago, he would have held that in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just love to see how God is moving in his life. He knows I love him. That's my boy.
Yeah, very good. Very good. All righty. Anyone else want to go and introduce themselves? Tell me what you think about mental health and emotional health, especially as it pertains to men.
Hey, I can go. Hey, how are you? Is it
Desney? Yep.
Desney. Thank you for being on. My name is Brian. I'm close friends with Bryson. His wife is very close friends with my wife as well. They used to work together. So, what I believe mental health and emotion is once again, it's within the mind. But I can honestly say that a couple of years back, I was real ignorant to it, in the sense of just not knowing, because I was one of those people where, people would talk about anxiety and depression, and I'd be like, man, why don't y'all just relax, go sit in the corner, take a chill pill. Life can't be that hard. But when my 3-year-old ended up getting cancer, I think that's what triggered I've never had anxiety before, but then all of a sudden, I became somebody who went from being confident, ambitious, to worrying about every single thing, every single day of the hour until today. I worry about my kids. I worry about them driving in the car. I worry about, did they make it here safe? Are they going to make it home safe? It's like every little small, and then, I'm learning with anxiety and depression that, with marital issues, things like that come along into play, you tend to wonder, one thing I'm learning with anxiety, it takes one road, and from that one thought, you create 20 different avenues. And now you're getting upset off of 20 different things that didn't even happen.
Absolutely.
And, the anxiety and depression just put me in a dark place. So I guess the knowledge I want to gain from this is how to deal with the mind, how to deal with the fear, and how to get back to one's normal self, where I can contain the thoughts and move forward. Because not trying to be funny or anything, I heard Will Smith say it, like, half the things that are going on in your mind, 95% of them don't even happen.
Absolutely.
It's just these thoughts. And, when you try to even look at it from a spiritual aspect, it still tends to play on your mind.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, my pastor just preached on this. A lot of times your most negative thoughts come when you're praying. When you get distracted, or you're worried about something else, and it's like, so that's when the anxiety and depression, and then the emotional aspect of it. How does this make me look as a man? How does this make me? How do people see me as a man?
Absolutely.
So I went from being one person to now this worrier about every single thing. How do I compensate, or should I even be compensated, or should I be embracing, or should I be talking? I don't know. So I think that's where truly I'm at right now.
Yeah. I heard you say a lot. You said, I want to know how to deal with this, how to get over it, how to master it. Whew. Some people spend 3, 6, 7 months in therapy to do all of that. But I hope I can give you something to walk away with that you can at least begin today. And I liked what Kareem said, that when we can meditate on those things that are, say that scripture again, Kareem, because you broke it down. Those things that are lovely, that are pure, that are true. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah. True, honest, just, pure, lovely, and ultimately praiseworthy. Just things that are good, praiseworthy. So sometimes a thought might come and I'm like, that's not praiseworthy. That's not worth meditating on. I'm gonna just cast that thought to the side, things that are praiseworthy. Yeah.
Yeah. The Bible says, think on these things. And for some of us, it's easier to do than others. And so for those of us, when it's not that easy to do, I'm going to have us do a exercise at the end to perhaps help with that. Okay. Anyone else want to go before I go to my next question?
You want me to jump out there, or?
No, I can jump out there too. Go ahead.
Cool. Go ahead.
All right, my name is Leon, by the way. For those that don't know. But I would say mental health is an issue that I feel like our community has been dealing with for a very long time. Mm-hmm. I feel like in this era, as far as this generation, it's been more brought to light than a couple years ago. I feel like before mental health wasn't the forefront, or it wasn't something that a lot of people felt like it needed to be talked about. I know now, I know even jobs are giving people leave and time to actually take time to themselves to actually have a mental health day, depending on where you work. But I feel like mental health is a big issue, and as far as men, being able to control your mind, your emotions, and just the aspect of understanding of how your mind works and operates under different situations or under pressure and stress. Because sometimes we don't operate in the correct manner, or we, like I said earlier, we think it's okay, but at the end of the day, we have to go and rethink our actions and what we did. And that's my little take as far as
Thank you. That was very good. Bryson, can we go to the PowerPoint? Can I share my screen? So I want to go to this slide right here because I think it's very important. Mental health issues is relatively common in the Black community, as Leon said. Researchers believe that the numbers in the Black community are higher than what is reported, only because, or one of the reasons, Black people or African Americans as a whole do not access mental health resources at the numbers that their white counterparts do. Why is that? There are barriers that exist because of mental health, especially in the African American community. Can you think of a few? What would cause us as a whole, as a community, to not access mental health?
I think one reason is because not having the black father figure inside the family. A lot of African Americans growing up with single mother homes, and just sometimes not being able to get the same opportunities as the white counterparts. That could cause a lot of mental stress, and just questioning a lot. And then I guess drug use. That causes a big problem as far as alcohol and different things that back in the day that we probably thought was okay, that have long-term effect later on. And I think the other one is just people don't understand, like, based off of how you raise your children and what we were taught growing up, probably or may not have been effective. Whoopings are okay, but positive reformation afterwards, understanding why you got punished, and not just saying just saying you did this and X, Y, and Z, can have a big effect and cause trauma later on.
Yeah. What about also to kind of take what he said and kind of change the perspective on it, with the fathers being in the house? I think growing up, you're taught as a Black young man not to cry, and I'm guilty of that as myself. with my son, and I'm trying to change some things. But you taught not to cry, not to really show too much emotions, you know, and really you don't even realize that carries with you, you know, it carries with you, and it just sticks with you, and it's just like it's a norm, and it's like you don't realize that it's an issue until, you know, people start saying, man, you're not sensitive, or you know, you don't show no empathy, you know, things like that.
Yes. So you bring up you bring up such really good points. Telling your son not to cry. I'm thinking perhaps that could be what your dad said to you, right? Yeah, not to cry. So let's get some perspective on that. What do the men here think? Should men cry? Should they not cry?
I'll jump in. I think it depends on the circle that you're in. Mm-hmm. I think more men are willing to cry around their friends than they are to do it in front of a woman, because they perceive that as that weakness or that moment of just vulnerability will be used against them later on. And they'll think to themselves like, wow, just for a moment I would let my guard down, and now you're bashing me for it. So you know what? I'm just going to go into this cave, and I'm just going to keep on going until I stop, and maybe keep on going.
Yeah. So lack of trust will cause you not to cry, as you say, in front of a woman. Lack of trust?
Yes.
Okay. At the same time, not showing emotions does what? What's the impact of that? Not showing your emotions. And showing emotions doesn't just have to be in tears.
I think not showing it suppresses it, and it causes internal damage. So I think health issues come up. You know, I think you know, a lot of rage, you know, just starts boiling up until somebody presses your button. You know, I think that's just personally some of the things that I've experienced. You know, like I've expressed to you too before. Like my doctor told me that I had white coat hypertension. You know, and it was telling me, you know, as far as like that's anxiety every time you see a doctor. So it's like it has to be a root cause there. You know, so I think suppressing emotions can lead to those type of things like that. You know, that's just my take on it.
Absolutely. Anyone else have a take?
Yes, ma'am. Not making the best choices. Understanding that suppressing emotion can cause you to make rash decisions. Not be in the right mind when speaking or saying certain things. It can also, like you said, cause, like Bryson was saying, cause health issues. That's what I got at this point in time. But I think it could cause a lot of problems.
Absolutely, it can. Actually, I'm going to go to this slide right here, and I'm just going to read you a story. And it's Jalen and Mark. Jalen and Mark are best friends, and both are members of the BMW Club, or Black Men Walking. Every Saturday morning, they meet as part of this informal club, and they not only walk, they talk. They talk a lot, almost nonstop. What do they talk about? Mark is going through some serious marital problems, and Jalen is feeling the stress of paying for 2 college tuitions, a mortgage, a car loan, entertainment, and more. None of this comes up while walking and talking. Also, neither has said so, but they both have high blood pressure and are borderline diabetic. And both of them suffer from symptoms of depression and anxiety. Now, my question is, they are walking and talking, and they talk a lot, but they're not talking about the things that are real. So where do you go? Where do you go for the real things of life to have people to talk to someone when life isn't going well? It is so great to say, as Christians, as someone who is successful, that things are well, things are good. When someone says, how you doing? The automatic response is, I'm good. I'm good. But sometimes we're not. And when we're not, where do we go? Where do you go? That's a question.
How you doing this evening? I think, well, personally, I have two or three friends specifically that I go to talk to, I guess, about, you know, good stuff, bad stuff, whatever, you know. No, those people have been friends with me since I was 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. So there is a comfort there, you know, with them. To some degree, it's even understood like it's no judgment, you know, no matter what you're speaking on, and vice versa. So there is like I said, there is a comfort there. I think as Black men, especially now being older, it sometimes feel like it's not as easy to connect that way to other men, you know, if you haven't known them for a long period of time or something like that. I feel like some of Bryce and myself kind of met each other through church. I do actually feel like, and I've known Bryson only at this point, maybe
about 5 years.
5 years, you know, through the church. But I feel a closeness with Bryson that connected us through the gospel, which for me makes it easier to talk to him because I do know that he's kind of like mine. So I do feel like it's not a judgment, you know, anytime we talk. There are some people who I've known 10, 15 years that I don't even feel that with, you know, so I think that's something, you know, to take into account as well.
Wonderful. That is so good. Good for you. And when you have those talks and discussions, you walk away feeling what?
Typically, feeling better to some form of degree, depending on what the situation was. But in some cases, it's really just good to be able to get it out, you know, and just have that discussion with somebody in general. I think to your comment that we were talking about, I think as Black men, again, we don't necessarily go to each other for bravado, ego, you know, all these different things. Even coming up for myself, although I knew he did, my dad never even used to say I love you for whatever reason. You know, I don't know what the reason was, but I knew he loved me. He never said it, you know, whereas
How did you know? How did you know?
Just stuff that he would do. You know, I knew he did the things to me, for me, you know, that I felt were loving. You know what I mean? Provided for me, you know, security, different things like that. But then now being older, you know, and I'm 41 now, since at least 22, maybe even 25, me and my dad say I love you every time we get off the phone.
Nice.
You know, and he always says his thing, you know, when he talks to other people, he's like, I went all this time without telling my son I love him. And it wasn't because I didn't. My dad didn't tell me.
He didn't have the words.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and my grandfather didn't do that for him, but he knew he loved him. So it was just a cycle. But as the time has gone on, now that we're older, he's like, I can't imagine, like, we never get off the phone without saying I love you at this point. And I mean, I have a son, I have a daughter, and I tell them I love them all the time. You know, so it's just a different cycle, you know, just trying not to repeat that, not telling them I love you because, it's bravado and men don't tell each other we love each other. You know, it's more of a thing now where, like, I'm sorry, I'm going long-winded now, but one thing now that my family does, and that's myself, my mother, my dad, and my sister, we don't actually say I love you as much to my mother as much as we do my dad now, because that's not her thing, you know, and it's nothing against her, you know, but as we've gotten older, she's not a I love you type person. But you ask her, Mom, what happened when I was in second grade and I fell out the tree? She'll tell you exactly what happened that day, like it was yesterday. So she remembers it. She loves you, but we don't say it as much to her. Yes. But with my dad now, it's something that, like I said, that's said all the time.
Mm-hmm. Good. I'm glad that you and your dad have gotten to that point, and you hear his words that he loves you. I bet that's priceless. And so I'm going to ask the question again, and I'm going to reframe it. Who do you go to besides this group and besides Bryson? Because y'all all can't go to Bryson. Y'all going to wear him out. So who do you go to besides this group and Bryson?
Honestly, it's not too many people you can go. I mean, of course, I don't want to say the cliche thing to say is to go to, take everything to God in prayer, because at this point, when you feel like you're at the bottom and you get driven to your knees because with the constant conviction that you have nowhere else to go, you have to go to God, and sometimes that's where your confidence, or your strength can only come from, but.
And at the same time, God uses people.
Exactly. But but sometimes if you feel like you don't have people, and I know for me, and this is no shade, it's just, I wish I could talk to my wife about these things. You know what I'm saying? Because if she's supposed to be my other half, then I want to be able to convey how I feel to my wife.
Yeah.
Because God blessed me with a wife, and he who findeth a wife findeth a great thing. So I would love to convey that to my wife. But as a man, sometimes I don't feel that what I'm going to convey is going to be taken, the way it should be. So it's kind of hard to have that conversation with your spouse. You don't want to go to your homeboys because you don't want to just hear some yeses and some, things like that. You want some accountability. You want to, you need help. So, the only thing to do is go to a doctor. But, I know me, and maybe, some of the people I know, there's a lot of procrastination with that because we feel like we can fix it on our own, or just give it time and it will dissipate. The feelings will dissipate. Everything will somewhat get back to normal. If I could just get to this, if I could just get here, I know all these things will go away.
Yeah. And do you ever get there?
No, absolutely not. You don't get there because once you feel like you've arrived, there's something else that has now been embedded in your mind that you can no longer control because the anxiety took over or the depression takes over. Absolutely. So now you're dealing with that. So it's kind of like you'll never have too much of something that you want. You're always going to crave that. So it's kind of like with, trying to get to the next level, you don't really get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's helpful to identify our emotions, how we are feeling, being able to label them and say what they are, and then be able to communicate that. So not to stuff them down, not to set them aside, not to ignore them, not to deny them. Because in doing that, that is what impacts the mental health. So the emotional health impacts the mental health. So understanding emotions, God has given them to us. We have them. It's a temperature. It's a barometer. It's not an indicator of what's true. And it's not necessarily factual. It's a barometer of how you are feeling based on the information that you have taken in. And being able to know what that emotion is, and then being able to talk about that can help alleviate a lot of times depression and anxiety. Not make it better always, but alleviate some of it when we can do that. And then we can have someone to talk to. It says for us to bear one another's burdens. Right? So let's see.
Quick.
Yes.
What if you have a hard time identifying that emotion?
Yep, that's what we can do.
Okay.
We're going to talk about emotions because I want to see how many emotions we can list. Now, I have a lot of you. here. I don't know how many. My screen looks a little different with sharing. But I want to see a list of emotions that we can come up with in about 1 minute. Okay? How many emotions can we identify in 1 minute?
I would say I would like to start off with anger.
Angry.
Yeah,
and let me say this, and we're going to say emotions that are not on the same spectrum. So angry, what's on that spectrum is mad, upset. What's on the spectrum of happy is excited, joy. So emotions that are not on the same spectrum. So as many different emotions as we can name. So go ahead. You said angry.
Yeah, anger.
Okay.
Fear. Loneliness.
What'd you say, Brian?
Loneliness.
Lonely. Good.
Frustration.
Frustration. Okay. I'll take that one.
Doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Insecure.
All right. Somebody else besides Brian.
Hey, he was on the road.
He was. No, we're allowing him to be too.
Yeah.
Inadequate.
Inadequate. Alrighty. Inadequate and insecure could be the same on the same spectrum. We got about 10 more seconds. Any others?
Selfish.
Happy.
Quiet.
The pride. Okay. All right, we're done. So let's see how many we came up with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8. Not too bad. And Bryant did about 4 of those. So I'm gonna give 1 for the 4 he gave. If I did that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We came up with about 5 emotions, and that's about right. What is said is that we know about 3 to 5 emotions, and that's about it. But there are at least 85 different identifiable emotions researched by the emotional researcher Brené Brown. And so if there's only a few that we know and a few that we talk about, what happens to all the other ones? What do you do with those? How do you even know what you're feeling? How do you know what you're feeling?
I don't know. That's I promise you that's what my struggle with.
How do you know? Yeah. How do you know what you're feeling? Can anyone say that?
I don't know.
Your wife will tell you.
That's a good answer. Mm-hmm. You want to? Okay.
I think you'll start feeling, like for me, I felt like a cloud was over my head, like, for about 3 days straight. Just this, I felt like I was just in this gloomy cloud, even though I didn't want to do nothing. I had to do everything on my normal day, but I just wasn't feeling it, man. Mm-hmm. This was like this past week.
Mm-hmm. So a gloomy cloud over your head.
Yeah, it just felt like a weight was on my shoulders. Like I just couldn't get it off.
Yeah. What emotion was that, you think?
I don't know. I don't want to say sad because I wasn't sad, but I just wasn't I could tell I wasn't feeling my normal self though. Mm-hmm. And then, like I told you, like I was trying to figure it out. And then one day I was just at work. When I was at work and I was writing the date down, the date came up as June 15th. And I realized that was my father's death anniversary. And so I'm like, man, that's what it is. Yeah. And I was able to do that.
Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. What was it? What was the emotion?
It was sad. Yeah. It was. I think it was. Geez, help me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to really put this thing into words because, like I don't know if I'm really sad or if it's just like my sad is different because it's like it just don't. I don't know.
It sounds like grief to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that sit well for you?
Yeah, because it does, but I've tried. There's times where I try to move past grief, and more so just Like I want to honor him instead of grieving him. You know what I mean? So it's like
but that could be what you want to do, but that may not be where you are.
Yeah, and it always happens around the same time of the year. Like I mean, not to make this about me, but I hate Father's Day. I hate that with a passion. This time of year, I hate it with a passion because he passed the day before Father's Day, and so every year, like I try to push myself past that emotion, you know, because I feel like I owe my kids better for them to be able to celebrate me for Father's Day.
And how does that work for you? When you push yourself past it, how does that work?
I gotta literally journal. I'll be literally journaling, praying. I gotta put myself in a certain position because in my mind that day replays my mind over and over and over again. And it's like, I mean, I'm talking about from the time that the police came to my house and I was there, then from me having to relay the message to everybody else, then from me being able to be the one to go to the hospital and then hold my mother when we found out the news, and it was only me and her and my neighbor, you know, who drove us. But then I had to tell my brothers, I had to tell all my family that, hey, come down to the hospital. And it was like, nah, what's going on? And I couldn't tell them over the phone. But then I was like, they're like, nah, be real with me. What's going on? So I had to tell them the news. So it's like, I feel like God has always made me in some form or some fashion. People tell me today, they be like, man, you know, you're a great communicator, you know? But it's like, man, if you realize that God made me, like in that moment, I was a messenger and I didn't want to be that messenger. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so when Father's Day comes up, that whole day just keeps replaying. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I don't want to grieve it. I don't even like talking about it because I'm like, man, look, I just want to honor him. He was a great father. Look, God, thank you. You're my father now. Like I'm looking towards you. I gotta father these kids, and I owe it to them. But it's like it's always this time of the year when it comes up. It's like it's just like a cloud that just comes over me. And it's rough to get out. And I don't want to keep pulling on it. But it's just like, it's weird. And I don't know how to explain it. I really don't know how to explain it.
Bryson, you just explained it.
Oh.
You just explained it. And it makes sense that you feel how you feel. Your father passed away around Father's Day. And it makes sense that you would be sad or that you would grieve. And y'all tell me, what would it be like, whatever the emotion, to just sit with it for a moment and just be curious about it?
I think, you know, as men, that's something that we actually know how to do, because we don't necessarily know how to embrace the emotion where we can converse about it. So we have to suppress. So we have to know how to suppress the inner feeling. We have to know how to deal with it while still putting a smile on our children's faces in the morning, while still getting up and going to work, while still trying to be the best husband we can be, because we don't know how to speak on the emotions that have been festering inside of us for so long, because we don't know how to release it. We don't even know, just like you said, we don't even know 90% of the other emotions. So we're still trying to, you know, figure out how to, you know, live with those. And the 10% we do know about, all we know how to do is to live with them. Mm-hmm. To the point where our spouse is on our right hand and our emotions are on our left, you know, and you know, we bamboo with, you know, with both hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good take. And that is a good way of seeing it. And I wonder what it's like having, and I don't know if it's living with the emotion or living with trying to stuff the emotions down. So you're having that battle of stuffing it down, resisting it, and still just living life.
Right, but it's like you're not living your purposeful life.
Oh, of course not.
Because the purposeful life is for you not to even, feel this way. And, but it's like, I guess that's where it comes to a point of how do we, what are the steps to even going about addressing something you know nothing of?
Yeah. So that is what I spend probably the first month of therapy on. Identifying emotions, labeling emotions, how you manage these emotions, regulating them, where do they fit, where do you go, how do you communicate about them, and how do you not be afraid of them? And how do you not be afraid to feel them? Because it's gonna pass. It's not gonna last. It's a moment, and it's okay. And I'll say to you, Bryson, it makes sense that you feel how you feel. It makes sense. Everyone, I'm sure, on this Zoom is saying, it makes sense you feel that way, Bryson. Your dad passed around Father's Day. I would probably feel the same way. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, Bryant, that you're spending time stuffing things down after your daughter, I don't know, you didn't say daughter, but after one of your children got cancer, and you feel that way, and you're just trying to do life. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the thing is not to be afraid of the emotion. It's gonna pass, but you can be curious, like, okay, so why is it here? Why? What is it telling you?
I had a question. Like as far as like when the emotion hurt, like how to release the emotions. So allowing not to let the emotion take over you, but to properly release the emotion so that it doesn't stick with you. And then you don't do things out of ill will or ill intent, or you're still able to operate in a sensible manner. And I think I have trouble tapping into certain emotions because I block it off. I block a lot of them off because I feel like it allows me my mind to clear. I always tell if I don't care, then it can't affect me. That was something that I tried to use to I guess cope with some of the emotions that I was going through. But that was my question to how to effectively release emotions so that it's not cooped up and it doesn't become build up. And the pressure, you feel the pressure. I mean, I feel like we feel the pressure like in general, but to add that emotional takes a toll.
Absolutely. And what I feel like you're speaking on, and please correct me if I'm not in the right ballpark, what I feel like you're speaking on is those intense emotions like anger, frustration, annoyance. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So one thing to understand about those emotions, and this is not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time, those are second emotions. So those are secondary emotions: anger, frustration, annoyance, mad. Those are second emotions, and they are in response to the primary softer emotions. And so if we really tap into the primary softer emotions, then we will probably have some clarity and have a clear head. So why am I saying that? Because those softer primary emotions probably, and I say softer because it can bring a level of vulnerability. So it could be feeling unloved, feeling unimportant or devalued, or feeling sad, or feeling rejected, embarrassed. Those are more primary emotions that we could feel. And if we can communicate out of those emotions, then maybe we wouldn't have the inappropriate response that you are speaking of. When we're angry, we tend to act out of that anger. But if we're angry because in the moment we felt rejected, and rejection is an intense emotion as well. However, if I can communicate, man, when you said I couldn't have the last piece of the last piece of pie, I felt like you didn't really care about me, that I was hungry, and I felt rejected by that. That's a different level of conversation than being mad and then wanting to respond out of that anger.
So are you saying like more so we got to learn how to communicate those softer emotions? So like if we feel rejected, you know, now what if, so should we communicate it? We have to communicate it to the person that has done the rejection, who has done the rejecting?
If that's appropriate, and sometimes it's just acknowledging that that's what you feel. Man, right. Maybe that I felt.
Because I'm saying, what if there's a situation where the person still responds and rejects you again, or doesn't take accountability for that rejection, you know, for the things that they've done, you know?
Absolutely. So we can almost count on that. Maybe the other person is not going to take responsibility. Right. Perhaps, depending on the other person. So is it about them taking responsibility, or is it about just communicating how you feel?
Oh, that's good. So I think, okay. All right. So I think it's not up to us to you know, look for how they're going to respond. I guess it is up to us to just, you know, worry about our response and how we communicate it. You know, how communicate our feelings or communicate the emotion, how we felt in that moment, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. All righty. So let's, I want to give y'all at least one or two things to walk away from. So one thing is, and the Bible talks about this often, meditation, right? Meditating. So Bryant, when you said, okay, how do I deal with these things? Meditation can be a really good way. And what is meditation? And I'll say it in a different way. Mindfulness. That's a big practice that I do with my clients. And being mindful is being in the here and now. It's being in the moment. It's being where your feet are. Being aware and doing that intentionally. So I heard you say, Bryant, things that take you down the road for the most part. And that's what anxiety will do. Take you down the road, have you into yesterday, next year, and then you're worried. However, if you are in this moment right now, if you are where your feet are planted, if you are in the here and now, most likely anxiety isn't present. Most likely you are okay if you're mindful about right now, this moment. And it's training the brain to do that. Human nature to want to go all the way down the road and to worry about tomorrow. And we have to train ourselves to just be right here. Just be where you are. Our society hails us when we can multitask and we can get a bunch of things done in minimal amount of time. And that's not a bad practice, but it's not going to help you to be mindful and aware of being in the moment. So if you're brushing your teeth, brush your teeth. If you're eating, eat. If you're watching a show, watch a show. If you're playing with your children, play with your children. So what am I saying? So don't watch a show, be on your phone, having a conversation with your spouse, playing with the kids. That's not being mindful on an intentional basis and being aware and being in the moment. And that's a practice. And for some, it takes longer than others because our brain is prone to wonder, and it's okay. And we just learn to just bring it back to right here, right now. Right here, right now. And learning how to do that. Because it's distressing when it's down the road or when it's in the past, thinking about all of those other things, Bryson. That day. Well, bring it because I just happen to know you have 4 beautiful children who would love to celebrate you on Father's Day, and what your father has deposited into you has caused you to be the father that you are, and you deserve to be celebrated on Father's Day.
And you know what? Just to, real quick, because I think you just kind of broke some bondages for me. But one of the things I will say is that emotion for the grief, I guess, from that day and how it replays in my mind, it did bring that secondary emotion. I didn't really even think of it like this, but the secondary emotion of fear, right? Mm-hmm. And so the fear for me is every time I look at my kids, especially around this time for Father's Day, I say, dang, man, like he passed away at 59, only 59 years old. So I'm like, man, like, am I going to go there early? And so then my mind starts to go there. Mm-hmm. Like, man, I don't want them to feel like how I felt. I don't want, things like that start to come up. And then that's, I think now it's starting to kind of come to me is that's where the issues try to come and I try to suppress it. Like, I don't want,
Mm-hmm. And it's bringing your mind back to the moment and being mindful of where you are in that moment. And I don't know, even if you're at home with your wife and your children, be in that moment, take that in.
Yeah.
Because right here, right now, you're not 59. Mm-hmm. You are alive and well, and your children are getting the fruit of what your father has deposited into you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so one great way to help us with mindfulness, so it's many. So when we're eating our food and we're chewing our food, what are you tasting? What are the spices? What is the texture? What does it feel like in your mouth, against your tongue, across your teeth, on the roof of your mouth? What do you smell when you're eating? And all of that helps you to be mindful. You have a piece of chocolate candy. Do you just bite it? Or do you allow it? Do you savor it and take every nook and cranny that there is? What does it feel like? And that can help you bring your mind back. So if you don't mind, you can just get in a relaxing position. And you're going to keep your eyes open, but something to help you to just be mindful and be aware of your presence where you are, and you do that intentionally. It's a grounding exercise. Anyone who has been to therapy or anything or knows anything about it probably has done this. And what I want you to do, you don't have to say it to me. Well, before we even do that, I'm going to tell you the instructions. It's going to be a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you're going to just look around the room as I ask you these questions. But before we do that, I want us to just relax and take a deep breath. And I'm going to give you some instructions. To take a nice, good deep breath. It's a diaphragmatic breathing, where when we breathe in, the stomach goes out. And that makes sense because the lungs are filling up with air. And then when we breathe out, the stomach comes in, because the lungs have left the air has left the stomach. And what that does, that breath right there, will help send a signal to the brain to calm down and relax. Okay? And so I'm going to count you through some breathing. We're going to breathe in through our nose at a count of 4. We're going to hold at a count of 4. And then we're going to breathe out at a count of 8. The breathing out is through our lips, and it's a pursed lips like this. And then we're going to breathe slow. Okay? And then we're going to go into the exercise. So anybody who wants to participate, just relax. Nothing crossed. Just chill. Also, the shoulders, we don't have to invite them to come along for the ride. They come automatically. So when we breathe in, it's not like this. We don't have to invite them. It's okay. When we breathe in naturally, they'll just rise. They come along. Okay? So let's breathe in. 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. We're going to breathe in through the nose, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alrighty. You can open up your eyes. Your eyes need to be open for this exercise. And I'm going to ask you, what are 5 things that you see in your room or wherever you are? And you can just name them to yourself. 5 things that you see. You can look around, you'll see those 5 things. You ready? What are 4 things that you hear? What are 3 things that you smell? And whether you smell it now or you have smelled it in the past. So 3 things that you smell. What are 2 things that you taste, either now or in the past? And what is 1 thing that you feel? And that is a tangible feel. And so it's what you feel. You can feel your shirt against your body, your hat on your head, if you have an earring in your ear, your feet against the floor, your buttocks in the chair. That is 1 thing that you feel. A blanket in front of you, your steering wheel. I'm going to have you take a deep breath in through your nose. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So that's just a practice just to orient you just back to your space, back to where you are. So when your mind is wandering and you're going down the road, you can just bring yourself back to where you are. Ready? Thank you very much, Bryson. I can go on and on and on and on. I wish that I can. Here is my number right there. If there are any follow-on questions, please feel free to text, and you can just say, hey, I was on that Zoom call with Bryson. I have a question, and I would love to answer the question.
So before I let you go, I do want to open the floor. Does anybody have any questions, last minute questions for Desni, anything? Okay. So look, I got a question, because tonight was actually one of the nights that were a little bit different for us. I wanted to really invite the spouses out. I don't know if any of our spouses or anybody that we're seriously dating came on. But even for myself, as you started off early on in the conversation, you said that you're married to Kennedy. He's a retired lieutenant in law enforcement. Also, you have Nelson, who is also my pastor. He's your son as well as a pastor. And then, Brian, who is a, student athlete. Just each one of those positions, number one, as a son, as a husband, as, on a job, as a pastor, as law enforcement, all these things, student athlete, they come with their own challenges. How have you played a role with helping support them? Like what approach do you take, and what can be helpful for some of our spouses to take, to be able to approach or support, us in these times when we can't identify the emotion?
Yes. That's a really, really good question. And so my daughter said she was going to write a book that says living with a parent that's a therapist and what that experience is like. However, I really try not to be that at home, because that's what I do. It's not who I am. And I only hesitate because what I do is what I do, right? And it doesn't mean that works for everyone. And it doesn't even mean that it's effective. But what I will say is, I would say what I feel like I do really well is pay attention and listen, observe, and be available. With my sons, especially, encouraging them. I support them in everything. Just speaking to who they are as men of God, Black men, respecting them. So I would say probably the main thing would be listening and then even helping them to label their emotions. And I also do that with Kennedy, helping him to say how he feels. Not that that always works, but that's what I do, help him to say how he feels. So, and I do that so much so that with all three of my children and my husband, that support is very vital to who they are.
Yeah. That's so good, because that's what I was, trying to get to, is just saying, how can we be, and not just our spouses be the safe haven for us, but like, how can we even be the safe haven for them?
One way to be a safe haven to your spouse is to validate them. And so that's the other thing, validate how they feel. So validate. And one thing that is very common for men, ask the question, do you want me to help you solve this problem, or do you just want me to listen?
Yeah.
So ask that question. If they don't say it up front, I just need you to listen, then you ask, do you just want me to listen, or do you want me to help you problem solve? Most times they don't want you to help problem solve. They just want you to listen and then validate however they're feeling. Just validate it. And validating doesn't mean you agree. It just means that from your perspective, I understand.
Yeah. That's amazing. I had a conversation previously with you, Destiny, and somehow you tied in slavery and civil rights with mental health and emotional health. Yeah. And I was so amazed with that. Could you share that if you mind?
Absolutely. In my mind, everything goes back to that. Now, I know that that's not true, but for us as a community in America, our beginning is with slavery. So what I was sharing with Bryson when we were talking about men not crying, and I said, how can men cry when the African was brought here as a slave, taken from their country, and brought here, beaten, had to change their name, spoke a different language, saw their wives raped, abused, had their children snatched from that plantation, sent to another plantation, belittled, called boy, was cargo. How do you show emotion in all of that when that definitely could, the vulnerability of that could cause you to be reprimanded even more or ridiculed? So how do you cry with that? And so then you learn not to cry and not to show emotion. And then that gets passed down from generation to generation to generation, to where now we have young men who are told or have been told not to cry, not to show emotion. And it just makes sense. Because what happens with trauma in the brain, it changes the brain chemistry and it alters subsequent generations. And that's just the research. And that has been proven scientifically. That's my take on it. Why men don't cry. That's just my take. That's my take. How do you cry? How do you cry?
Wow.
But you can but it makes sense to me, how we got to this point. Don't forget what I gave away.
Absolutely. Let me say this. Oh, I almost forgot. So Destiny actually is giving away one free counseling session with her, which is valued at about $150 per hour when you talk about, therapists and therapy. Outside of insurance, I don't know if y'all have ever taken a look at the cost for these things, but, she's actually going to be donating a free giveaway of a counseling session. And so, for the guys that actually did show up today, I will reach out and, determine, based upon, or maybe even if we hit, we can even try to sponsor, somebody and, they can get a session. Go ahead, B.
Oh, no, I'm just raising my hand for my session. That's all.
I know that's right.
All the emotions you was giving, I was like, oh, he must be the one. All the emotions he was giving.
Well, look, you don't gotta wait for him to give you a sign or a dream. I'll give it to you.
But look, I'm gonna go ahead, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and pray out real quick for everybody, and then we can go ahead and call it a day, man. God, we just thank you today, Lord. We just come to you, Lord, as a community of brothers, Lord, looking to seek you out, Lord, seek your direction, seek your love, seek your joy, seek all of the emotions that we don't even know of. We just want to find out. Lord, as we come to you today, Lord, we come to you as strong brothers, Lord, willing to be nurtured by your love, your kindness, Lord. Lord, by Miss Destiny, Lord, she came in and she nurtured us with information that was so overwhelming, Lord. We can take it to bed with us and meditate on it tonight. Lord, I just thank you, Lord, for this opportunity that you've given us to be able to expound and hit, Lord, and to be able to change the lives of these men, impacting them, Lord, slowly but surely transforming their hearts, Lord, planting a seed of love that you have. In Jesus' name, I pray for these brothers tonight. I pray for Destiny and her family. I pray for her sons. And I pray for her daughter. I pray for her husband. I pray a blessing over that household and that family, Lord. Lord, in the name of Jesus Christ, I pray today. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you again. Thank you again. I love you guys, man. Y'all have a great night. And, man, we'll talk, bro.
All right, love y'all.
Love y'all,
bro.
I appreciate y'all, man. Take care.
For sure.